welcome to the Homestead. I am actually not on the Homestead right now, as you can tell. Instead, I am in the car with Joseph. We are on our way to get a new permanent animal for the Homestead. Sometimes you get animals for the Homestead because you are trying to solve a problem. And that is what brought about this animal. Joseph came to me the other day and said, I think we need to get an animal to mow the orchard that won't eat the trees, won't till up the ground too much. And so, yep, you probably guessed it by now. We are headed to go get some sheep. Now this is exciting for me because I have wanted sheep for a while, but Joseph has been very against it. His family used to raise sheep, and it wasn't always positive memories when you raise an animal as a kid. And so he's been like, no sheep. When we butchered Lemmy and Chewy for Passover, I realized that I actually really love sheep meat, and it would be worth going ahead and raising our own sheep. So I figured sometime down the road we would. I did not expect it to be quite as soon as now.
So yeah, basically, we have 3 acres with fruit trees on it. Mostly apples, some pears, some cherries. Mostly apples. We ran pigs on it last year, and although the pigs were able to keep the orchard relatively clean from a grass and weed standpoint, they work up the soil a bit. Now the pigs that we had last year were heritage crosses and don't root as aggressively as conventional pigs, but they still root around a bit, which leaves a fairly uneven surface. They also like to rub on trees. Nothing bad, but it makes it harder to run any other equipment through the same space. On the apple trees in particular, we'd like to do some insecticide and fungicide sprays, all organic treatments, but it's hard to run tractors up and down the rows after you've had pigs on a space, unless you've had pigs on a space for a long time and they are able to smooth things back out again. That led to a discussion basically on what's an animal that would keep the grass down without eating the bark or eating the trees. We've had good success with goats in terms of keeping a space clear, but the goats will eat many things, including apple leaves and new growth, things that we don't necessarily want to be chewed up, which led to sheep. I've had sheep. My family's had sheep for years. My parents still have a few sheep. We had 30 to 40 growing up at a time, and it was fine, but wasn't anything I was excited about. But they do a good job keeping the place mowed, essentially. They're not hard on the soil. As long as they've got ample food, ample good quality grass, they're not going to eat up the trees or the leaves. And with the sheep that we're looking at right now, which are Katahdin Dorper crosses, they are a hair sheep. So that means less maintenance, no shearing, less shearing. And also with the Dorper cross in there, they can get some decent weight as far as for meat. With the 3 acres, we'll need probably 8 to 10 at some point to be able to easily maintain that, to keep it grazed. We're starting with 5 ewes that have been exposed to a ram, so we're hoping that the majority of them are pregnant. And from the lambs this season, we'll select a few more to go with our 5 ewes that we're picking up today.
So the plan is that we will get these 5 ewes, they'll have babies, and then in the fall or throughout the summer and fall, I'm going to look for a Katahdin ram, because these are Dorper Katahdin, and we actually want to breed back to Katahdin so that we keep with a hair sheep so we don't have to shear. We'll see what we end up finding. It may not end up being a Katahdin, but I want to go ahead and focus more on the hair sheep because I really do not want to have to shear sheep. The last time Joseph sheared sheep, he sheared more than the hair off, and yeah, so we're not planning on doing that. We want a hair sheep opposed to a fiber sheep, not just because we want to have less work, but also because the Katahdins tend to have less need for intervention as well and more inputs. They're just naturally resistant to things. Depending on which ones you get, they just tend to be more resilient, and they're, from what we can tell, good mothers and good birthers. So we'll see what we end up getting, and it's going to be an adventure.
One of the downsides with Katahdins, they're great sheep. They're hair sheep, very resilient. They're hot weather sheep. So they can handle our summers just fine, but they're also able to handle winters. The single biggest downside is their size. They're not a very large sheep. They're not a very fast-growing sheep. And for a meat breed, that becomes challenging then. By crossing them with the Dorper, you're able to maintain some of those hair characteristics while also getting a cross that grows faster and puts on a little bit more weight. You need to keep the Katahdin genetics dominant so that you maintain those hair traits and some of those resiliency traits, but mixing in some Dorper is very good for a flock then that grows a little bit faster and gets heavier, gets to market weight quicker.
Hey guys, so we just got home with the sheep and we are putting together their pasture. We're using Premier One, always and forever. They have some of the best fencing systems that we have found. Yeah, and so Joseph and my dad are down there getting all this set up, and we'll put the sheep in the orchard like we had talked about. I told Joseph I wanted them close to the goats because I want to work on making them really friendly. That is my goal, I guess you could say, for the summer, is to make them real friendly. And there's plenty of things for them to eat in here and graze, and they'll keep all this down beautifully. It'll be really nice. So they're already electric trained, so this will be very easy to transition them to. This particular Premier One fencing has the wires, but it also has the stand-up tubes. I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually like a plastic. Some of the other ones are just wire both ways and it doesn't stand up as well. This one tends to just stand up on its own much better, and you can see down the line how it looks really good. Very impressed with this. So we're gonna get this set up for them and then move them over. Honestly, we could not have picked a more beautiful day for going and getting sheep. This is absolutely gorgeous today. It's almost too hot, which is perfect in my books. I love the warmth, and I'm just so glad that we're finally at the point where it's warm.